Hello, friends. So, right now we have episode 2, and I apologize that it took me more than a day to sort out some problems. Also, as promised in the first episode, I will bring you how to enable multiple target or multiple TFM when you are using Visual Studio Code. Honestly, it's hard to really understand what's going on. And yeah, I have found some clues from Stack Overflow, and hopefully not just answer the previous problem, but also we could have some ways to use or experience multiple TFM support in Visual Studio Code. I personally would not call it support, but then just to try to ensure that we could debug different version of .NET or different target. So, as okay, let's start. I will explain it later. And now we are here. What is .NET and what is .NET in .NET 8.0, including new features of .NET 8.0. First is core technologies, and also I'll try to answer the VS Code support, and then the application target. This is related to TFM, target framework moniker. So why it is important, and also in coincidence with the fixes or the solution that I'm going to give you to debug multiple target in Visual Studio Code. And to me it's very important. Why? Okay, I'll show you. Again, before that, please like or subscribe, because it is very meaningful to me. And don't forget to comment if you want to, or if you want to correct me, feel free. And this is me with my wife. I'm based in Indonesia. My GitHub ID is Area1. You can also find me on LinkedIn. Now we are at episode 2. So I'm trying to focus on the core technologies, including the SDK and the TFM itself. So the core technology is basically the runtime, the BCL, and TFM. I have a typo here. It should be application target, such as desktop, web, and many more. Many more in the sense that we will see that we can develop for Android, iOS, and many things. The SDK, including the tooling such as MS Build, of course, and the language compiler, .NET tool, and extensibility tools, which is I'll try to cover the .NET tooling and the rest in the next video. And we'll have the project system. Project system is actually part of the SDK, but we still need it because SDK will also give you the necessary tooling and components to enable Visual Studio or any other IDE that has interest in .NET, to ensure that they can read and open the CS-Proc or VB-Proc or FS-Proc if you use F#. Of course, VB-Proc is for Visual Basic. And then the exciting thing is Trimmer, and I will discuss Trimmer for the next video. Okay, so let's go back to the Visual Studio Code. And let's see. So just open it. Yeah, it looks like my Camtasia somehow is not closing, but let's just continue. Now I have updated the launch JSON, also the settings. So we need these two, launch and task, besides settings. Let's just ignore the settings for now, because here it tries to tell Visual Studio Code to which solution it should open. In this case, the hello.net console.solution, or SLN. And then let's look at the launch. By default, if I just open this in Visual Studio Code and try to just open default settings or default launch configuration, the type would be .NET, request would be launch, and there will be the path of the project. In this case, I have to use a little bit more customized. I still have to specify the type, the request is launch, but the program that is going to be used to launch is this, directly the result of the compilation, which means this DLL. And of course, by default, .NET 6, .NET 8 will use this kind of convention. So the folder of the project, /bin, /debug if you want to debug, and then the target framework name, in this case NET 6.0, and then the resulting binary or DLL. This is also the same for NET 8.0. You will have the same folder structure. You may wonder why I have to use the workspace folder here. It means that this is a variable, specific variable, that says path to the application DLL or .NET Core host executable to launch. So we have a nice intelligence here. Then I use this kind of settings, pre-launch task. This is to ensure that if I'm going to have my own, maybe a .NET build or setup or whatever, and this pre-launch task, this name has to be the same as the name defined in this task.json. So we have launch JSON, task JSON. Launch is for the launch configuration, and task for the custom task or something else that relate to compilation, or if you want to do, let's say, customize with build, and you want to specify the parameters that you are going to use. In this case, I'm only having one project, like the previous one, hello.net console.csproj. I use type is process, command is .NET, the argument is build, then the name of the csproj, or the path, sorry, and then next one is additional parameters like property generatable path is equal to true. The next one is the problem matcher. I have to use ms compile because I'm going to compile, of course, .NET Core, and I have to assign a name. So in this case, I name this task as a .NET build hello.net console. Of course, this is the same thing, the same name as the pre-launch task of this guy. So let's try to debug. Now let's go back to the program.cs. You see that I have put breakpoint here, and Control CP. I can choose which launch. So let's look for .NET launch install tool. This one. Select launch. Why is not showing? Select launch configuration. There you are. Okay, looks like I have to select. So here, launch target, I can choose between .NET 6 and .NET 8. If I choose this guy, and then if I try to debug F5, it will compile it first, then I arrive at here. So if I step over, then I can see the current date is the date on my machine right now, and it will go to here, and then if I press continue, it will print the current date and the, of course, hello.net. So I'm now debugging in 6.0. So let's look at that. Okay. This is strange. I should debug in 8.0. Let me see. Oh, this is strange. Control CP. Select launch configuration. I should choose this one. Come on. The improve launch. Okay. Okay. This is new to me. Please enable. Okay. Please enable that. Okay, I have to manage ascension. So improve launch experience is not enabled. Please enable the C# preview. C# preview. So where to enable this one? Well, I got hit by demo syndrome right now. Okay, so let's go back to this. It says here add configuration. Launch. This is not what I want. Debug here, debug there. Maybe I should use .NET Clean first. Okay, let's try this one. Launch target this and running. I should get okay, and now don't know why it is not working. Should not take this long just to fix this. Add existing project. Right. Select launch configuration. Let's go to see whether this. Oh, I have to restart. Why is that? Damn. So C# kit. Let's see the features, settings, review, improve launch experience. How to set this guy? Okay, hopefully this guy. Workspace, no. There should be extension, C# dev kit. There you are. Improve launch experience. I'm going to enable this. Launch configuration. Okay, looks like everything is good. Update the support. Improve launch experience. Okay, let's try again. Active launch configuration service has not been initialized. Let's try to rerun this again and see what happened. If this not work, then maybe I have to look for other kinds of solution or whatever. Control CP. What? Yeah, this one. Okay, let's do launch configuration .NET 8 and run it without debugging first. I should have 8.0. No, this is starting to annoy me. Okay, 8.0. Run without debugging. I'm not using anything disastrous. Task. It's like after I update something. Come on. Okay. Now this is strange. Let's try to clean it. And let's try to run it. This is my last try. Select. Backgrounds. I'm going to use this guy. And run without. Let's see. Hello, bin, cup. Okay, still there. Now let's look for. Let's see what happened. exe. I got the correct one. Path the application DLL or .NET Core host executable to launch. Later. But then you will see that the importance of this guy. And right now I'm going just to open my old Visual Studio. So this always works for me. Yeah. First I have .NET 8, and if I change this, I should have .NET 6. Yep. Why is this important? Because this is target framework. Usually when you have a .NET framework project, the way that you specify the version is by using the property page of that project. And if I right click properties, you'll see that usually it shows like this one. But since .NET Core, you can directly see the content of that project. So it's already open. If I close this and if I click, by default it will open the content of that CS project. You can also specify in this directly. It says how to specify the more than one is just using the semicolon. But this guy, target frameworks, by default it will only use this singular, the target framework, not target frameworks, which is plural. So I have 2, 6.0 and NET 8.0. If we open the documentation page, here we have target framework, and the definition of target framework, usually Microsoft call it TFM. Target framework moniker is a standardized token format for specifying the target framework of a .NET app or library. And this is fine. We already use this if you create your own NuGet actually. And this is the list of .NET Core or .NET Framework TFM. And this is not all of the available list of .NET TFM. I mean, this table includes the .NET Core and .NET Framework. There is also .NET Standard. Actually, .NET Standard is the standard way of, you have a basic library, especially the BCL, which I'm going to describe this. .NET Standard can be referenced by .NET Framework and also can be referenced by .NET Core, meaning that if your code target .NET Standard, then your code will be guaranteed to run on .NET Core and .NET Framework. So you should also imagine or consider that .NET Standard is the parent of .NET Core and .NET Framework. You can run your .NET Standard code on .NET Framework, on .NET Core, but it is not the other way around. So you cannot reference .NET Core from .NET Standard, meaning that .NET Standard should not be used as the child dependency, should be used as the parent dependency. That will be described in detail after this video. There should be, there should be some kind of way to see the connection. It seems like that tool is not available anymore, I think. So basically everything that runs on .NET Standard can be used or can be referenced by .NET Core and .NET Framework. And we see that we have here is the list of the .NET Core TFM starting from 1.0, 1.1. You see that since .NET 5, again they remove the core app, and you'll see that since .NET 5.0 you have asterisk. This is to notify or make a note that since .NET 5.0 there is also operating system specific. Like here we have a sample of .NET 5.0 Windows, meaning that it will support Windows. There will be also .NET 5.0 iOS or Android, if I'm not mistaken. But this name scheme of TFM, it's a little bit hard to explain actually in the first place. It is available since .NET 5.0. Why? Because you cannot specify net core app 3.0 Windows. There is no such thing for that kind of TFM. This is also, in a sense, it brings more specificity, in a sense that if you have a console or application or whatever, if you target it for Windows, you will get the benefit of Windows available directly to you, such as maybe you need some ways to query WMI, Windows Management Instrumentation, or maybe you need to somehow ensure that you can still interact with the Windows specific features such as Kerberos or maybe Active Directory, but for intranet or your own internal network. That would be enough. But then your application cannot be easily ported to run on other kinds of operating systems such as Linux or iOS or maybe on Android, for example. This TFM is also can be seen as something that looks like you have to pay attention, because then the compatibility bar between versions, you have to pay attention. There's no way. Usually in the .NET Framework, it is common that if you have a .NET Framework 4.8 right now, since I'm having Windows 11, it will have .NET Framework 4.8.1 as the runtime. So that's the fact. But you can still run any .NET Framework app as long as the runtime of the .NET Framework version. So there are two kinds of version. You have the runtime and also you have the .NET Framework version. I mean the version that you are going to use for the application development. But the runtime for .NET Framework is not the way you see the versioning runs. So if you are .NET Framework 4.8, you are using .NET 4.0 runtime. If you are using .NET Framework 2.0, you are using .NET Framework 2.0 runtime. So begin with the 2, you are using .NET 2.0. Unfortunately, and this may confusing, .NET Framework 3.0 is still using the 2.0 runtime. .NET Framework 3.5 is using 2.0 runtime. Even the 3.5 SP1 still using it. But starting from .NET Framework 4.0, including 4.5, 4.6, 4.7, 4.8, you are using .NET Framework 4.0 runtime. Only the numbers of libraries that comes within each release is becoming more and more or larger. This brings the discussion to why I make this as a technology or features. Like you have the runtime or the core CLR, and then you will have the base class libraries. And if you want to see the general architecture, I mean the way you see in the composition way, the base one is the core CLR. This is common language runtime. These also include, if you see that in the .NET Framework you will have a MS Core lib, but in .NET Core you have system.private.corelib. That is and also MS Core lib, of course. But the large part of the classes for the core CLR, it will be in system.private.corelib, if I'm not mistaken. So, and then On the upper layer, you have the BCL, base class libraries such as system IO, system link, system collection, system threading, and so on, including the language-specific base class libraries such as for C#, Visual Basic, and F#. And beside that, you will have entity framework, and the next layer is the closest one when you are creating or developing application is you have a ASP.NET, WinForms or Windows Forms, WPF, and MAUI. I'm not going to discuss each one of these in this video. I will focus on describing ASP.NET, WinForms, and WPF. For MAUI, I'll try to discuss after I get some familiarity. Honestly, I'm learning MAUI for the last 3 months, but I think I have to get used to it. Fortunately, since .NET 8.0, if I'm not mistaken, there is a support for MAUI for Visual Studio Code. I will try to present it and demo it to you after some episodes. Then the framework is having a TFM, so I already discussed that dash token format was using TFM framework. This I'll try to sort it out better because you don't need all of this in order to run your app, but to develop your app you need all of this, especially the SDK first, because SDK is the installation or the bundle that enables you to develop application in .NET. Actually, if you are just using Visual Studio Code, you can develop app for, let's say, ASP.NET console, or even just simple Azure functions. Actually, Azure function support .NET Core. If you are using Visual Studio, of course, by default, maybe you need some ways to visualize your app. Visual Designer support, such as WPF, WinForms, you may need it. MAUI, of course. Then you will need Visual Studio. And we'll see that we have also toolings. So now I'm going to demo to you. If I use this, now we have a SDK command list such as add, build server, clean, format, have, list, ms build. So I'm not using Windows, but in case you are not using Windows, especially if you are using VS Code, having knowledge of these commands will be useful. And unfortunately, you have to learn it because consider this: every time you create or develop an app using .NET, you are going to submit it for PR, or you are going to need a CI/CD tool such as Azure DevOps or Jenkins or whatever you have, and you will have to be familiar with these command line. For example, if I'm going to create new, I could call .NET new and see, can I just -h, I can see the option that I have. But if I want to see what are the templates available to me, if I want to create new app, I can just .NET new. You see that there is this command list. If I just type without any parameters, it will list all of the .NET new templates. This is for the .NET 8. So for .NET 8, we have Aspire, MAUI, ASP.NET MT, gRPC, Web API, Native AOT, Model, View Controller, MVC, Browser Pages, Angular. This is Angular is usually used for creating app that having a SPA model, single place application model. And then you can also create a Blazor server, Blazor web app, Blazor WASM or WebAssembly, or you can just simply create a class lib. The simplest one that you can create, you'll see that you have a broader or not just C# language support. For example, for the class library, it supports C#, F#VB, console app also supports C#, F#VB. But then if you are concerning UI such as WinForms, WPF, support is not available for all. Like for WPF, you can only support C#VB, WPF class library C#VB, WinForms also supports C#VB. You can also still create a WinForms using F#, but you don't have the designer support. Like you are creating your app by drag and drop the controls or components. You cannot have that if you are using F#, for example. But yes, you can still create a WinForms using F# or WPF using F#. There should be no limit for that, or you can still create it. And then you can also create not just project items or project files. There is a build props, build targets. You can also create git ignore for your .NET repo. The interesting one is global JSON, because global JSON will mark your folder, in this case this .NET Weekly folder, to use a specific version of SDK. So if we go to the source, let's see. Oh, it seems the solution is in the root folder. Okay, I'll try to define global JSON here. In case if I need some way to define the parameter and I could not remember, I just specify -h for shortcut of --help. You'll see that we have an option like SDK version, roll forward. Roll forward is also important, meaning that it tries to give you some range of compatibility boundaries, such as if you specify roll forward to latest major, let's say if in November I will have a version of .NET 9.0 release, then it can run on .NET 9.0 as well. But if I'm not specifying roll forward at all, then the SDK that I specify here will only support for that version. Will only support that version. If the version is not available on other machine, then it will not. Yeah, it will not be able to. You can compile, or you will not be able to compile. So let's see, what is the version that I have here. I have 8.0303. This is okay. Let's just use the 8.0300 and the new global JSON --SDK version. I will use 8.0.300. and to ensure that I will have a compatibility with older version, or sorry, not older version, the next version, I could use dash roll forward. Let's say I'm going to use latest major. Then it will create a new file called global.json, and if we try to pick into this file, you'll see that it has a nicely formatted JSON that tell us or that define the configuration. So we have our latest major, version is 8.0.3.00. Let's check whether I can still compile it. So I just let's build or simply run without debugging. See, can still still run, although it's still using 6.0. Or do I have to sign in? No, later. Now we have his 6.0, and let's check it on Visual Studio. I'll try to run on X0. Still works. Okay. So again, this is a runtime version, not the SDK. Now you have it. To prove that the version that is specified in this global JSON is very, very crucial. Let's say if I'm going to change this, just to prove to you that you will not be able to compile if I change the global JSON. So I'm going to replace this to use not latest major. Let's see what option do I have here. Patch major. Okay, I just simply use disable for roll forward. Oh, I have a nice intelligence. Let's just use disable for now. And I'm going to make this as 80200. Well, actually, this is the version that is available in 17.8, if I'm not mistaken. So, or 17.9. See whether I could still compile this guy. Let's go check it out. There should be something like build. CP build. Okay, this is correct. If I specify roll forward to disable, if the version is not available on my machine, I could not compile. Yeah. So now you see that this is important. You may ask, why do I have to specify the global JSON? Because in case that you are creating an app, you need some time to ensure that your app will only work for the latest major version, or it will work on the latest major, or it could only work on the latest feature. Latest feature in a sense that this is the major, ABC X0 is the major, the 0 is the minor, and the 200 is the feature. Don't ask me why it's called like that, but okay, I'm going to set this back to 300 and I'm going to set this to latest feature. So latest feature means that you are locking your SDK support only for the major minor version and the later version after the version that you define in the global SDK, meaning that if you define X0300, then you can still compile your SDK on X0303, for example, but you cannot compile on 9.0. Why? Because I limit this only for latest feature, not for major version or minor version. Although actually, since .NET 5.0, there is no minor version, because every year you will see a new release with the major version. There is no minor version at all. I don't know whether Microsoft will change in the later years, but I'm pretty sure that we can still have major every new year, every November. So in this November you will see 9.0 release. 9.0 means that it is an odd version number, meaning that it is a short term support compared to what I have right now is 8.0. This is a long term support. This is supported for 3 years. The 9.0 will have support for 1.5 years, which is shorter than the LTS, of course. You will see .NET New, and I mentioned about .NET other tools or extensibility tools. This is not the same as the Visual Studio extension. It is the extension of the .NET SDK itself directly. So if you look at the .NET tool, let's see if I correct specify this one. Yeah, .NET tool list, and if I want to look at my global scope, I can specify the global or -G. You see that the accessibility tool that I have is .NET counters. I could also maintain this accessibility tool by directly using .NET tool to update this guy. So it should be 8.0 if I'm not mistaken right now. So .NET tool update. Oh, let's see what are the options that are available for me. Package ID. Okay, package ID should be specified first, and then the -G. I just copy this. .NET tool update. -G. It should update .NET counters to 8.0. It should be. Yes. Okay, it is updated to 8.0. You could check with the .NET to this. -G is now 8.0. So this is a sample of the tool itself, the accessibility tools within the .NET SDK, but most of the time the tool is coming from the community. This .NET counter is created by Microsoft. You will have a .NET trace, .NET counters, and many more, such as if I'm not mistaken, you can also get the list. I forgot how to do that, but I'll give you how to list on the next video. Right now I have .NET counters. I can also create. Oh, sorry, not create. Install. There should be something like install. Yeah. Install .NET trace, and I am sure that I'll use it as a global scope, and it should have 8.0. Usually .NET Contours and .NET Trace is in synchronized with the .NET SDK release. Okay, there you are, you have 8.0, and if I try to list all of tools that I have two, .NET Contours and .NET Trace. These two are the tools that I often use. There is also like the report generators and so on. There is a list for that, and usually I could get the list coming from I may be mistaken, but I'll discuss this in detail in next videos. There you are, you have .NET tools, extensibility tools, and the next one is I'm sorry I could not describe in this video, is the project system and trimmer. Especially the most interesting one is the trimmer. So trimmer means that it tries to reduce the size of your compiled binary as small as possible, but at the same time you need to pay attention on the target operating system. Of course, if you are creating an app like console, it would be easy to use trimmer, because you don't have to worry about compatibility with different operating system. But if your console is also using TFM with target specific operating system such as NET 8.0-Windows, then the trimming may or may not be working at its best, meaning that the trimming size will not be the best, because it tries to check for any incompatibilities or any incompatibility issue with your chosen operating system, in this case Windows. Of course, having said that, this is very useful. It's like you are optimizing your delivery of the application as small as possible, because then if your application doesn't have any unused references, usually it is smaller, and it is also faster, because then .NET doesn't have to, the runtime doesn't have to try to resolve all of the references. And this concept of trimming is actually has been used in Xamarin, but then it is widely used in .NET Core. Honestly, I've tried to use trimming for a while. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. So why it is that? Yeah, it's for next videos. And this one is particular in maybe why do I have to deal with the project system? Why? Because like I mentioned before, if your project is targeting .NET Core, you'll have this first line of NET SDK. Directly you can see the source code, and it is simpler to follow. Like the output type is exe, means it is executable. Target framework, yeah, I have to NET 6.0, NET X0, and then I have this implicit using, meaning that I will have it is called minimum API, I believe, and it's very, very, very simple in the sense that I don't have to specify the namespace, the class name, and also implicitly specify the using. Only if I try to use something else like environment, then I have to specify the using system runtime.interrupt services. Other than that, I don't have to specify the using anymore. Now this brings some nice features, like you are almost like having code directly without having to think about what would be the bootstrap or the startup class. In this case, by default it will be called program. So the default class is program actually. Then you just write your code. That's it. So let's see what the other option. If we open the properties here, you see that global using enable implicit global using to be declared by the project SDK. And if you want to manage the implicit using in detail, you can try to specify in this settings, but please be careful using global using, because you will confuse your team member if you are not careful in configuring these options. Then you have a build. Again, you can specify release for NET 8.0, release for NET 6.0. This debug custom symbol will be dynamic in the sense that if you specify more than one target framework, such as this one has a 6.0 and 8.0, then you will have a settings for each of TFM for debug, release, and maybe many things. And then if we look at advanced, yeah, you will have a language version, but by default you cannot specify it directly. Why? Because C# is always being closely linked with the .NET runtime that you are using, or .NET SDK you are using. If you are using .NET 6.0, you are using C# 10. If you are using .NET 8.0, you are using C# 12. So this is a nice way to check the relation. Again, you will see this in Visual Studio, not in Visual Studio Code, and you'll see that there is deterministic, provide identical compilation output for identical inputs. By default, it is checked or enabled as true, but you cannot see it on your CS project. This is not quite obvious for now, but for specific scenario this is very, very important. Okay, but since we are now in the starting episode, I will tell you later. Now we have described, or we have discussed all of these, and we have an overview of TFM in an introduction way. I demo to you, and let me know if you have any correction or feedback. You see, you don't have to memorize all of this, especially if you are only targeting your app to current version of .NET or .NET Core. Let's say if you are right now starting to develop in .NET 8.0, yeah, you should only remember to make your app or target your app in .NET 8.0. Then after .NET 9.0 is released, then you can also start to migrate your app. Usually from the latest to the next version, the compatibility issues are sometimes none, sometimes just a very few. But if you are creating some kind of app with the complexity such as ASP.NET or WinForms or WPF, then you will see some classes will be marked as deprecated, and then usually the next version will be completely removed, meaning that you cannot compile anymore. it is different from the .NET Framework. You see, .NET Framework has a very high bar of compatibility, although you may find it is as deprecated or obsoleted in a sense. In .NET Framework language, it is called obsoleted, but in .NET Core, that class or maybe some only specified or specific method will be removed in the later versions. So you have to be careful and always pay attention on the compatibility issues that you may have on the next versions. Okay, so for the list of the references, you will have to look at the .NET SDK documentation, and then look for the .NET CLI. CLI means the command line interface, the one that I just showed you before. This is .NET CLI. So I'll see you next videos. The next videos will be back on the next Tuesday. So I had some problem with my camera before, but right now everything seems okay. And I also had some problem with my headset. Now I'm using this, so hopefully this is okay for a long time. That's it. Don't forget to like if you like this video, and also subscribe, and also feel free to comment. I'll see you on next week video. Bye bye.